Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 2 p.m. Eastern, so we will begin this meeting of the North American Numbering Council. My name is Kristen Schumann. I am the designated federal officer of the NANCY, and I thank you all for joining us today for our second meeting of 2022. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to make a staff personnel announcement. Many of you have dealt with Jordan Reth as a deputy DFO since 2019, and you know how knowledgeable she is on all NANCY matters. It's with great sadness on my part to announce that Jordan will be moving out of her position as deputy DFO and off the NANCY team effective with this meeting. Fortunately for us, she's not leaving the commission and will still have her expertise in the Wireline Bureau. Jordan, we thank you for your outstanding service. And for me personally, I can't thank you enough for all of your help when I took over as DFO last year. Working with you has truly been a pleasure. So now that we have established that there are big shoes to fill, I'd like to also announce that Rhonda Leanne is our new deputy DFO on a permanent basis. As many of you know, Rhonda joined the team earlier this year in an acting capacity. She has worked with many of you on membership issues and other things. Rhonda has done a great job, and we welcome her to her new permanent role as deputy DFO. For any matters for which members would have contacted Jordan in the past, please contact Rhonda instead going forward. Thank you to you both. And with that, Chairwoman Charles Peterson, I now turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Christy. And I also want to thank Jordan for all of her work and help and support, and welcome to the full-time position. Welcome, Rhonda. So very excited as well. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's NANCY meeting. We have some interesting and well thought out reports and presentations on today's agenda, and we'll get right to them very shortly. We welcome members of the public watching via live stream and encourage you to submit any questions to livequestions@fcc.gov. Your questions will be read during the public participation portion of the meeting. Before we begin, I will review for council members some ground rules and best practices to ensure we have a smooth and successful meeting. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. You may use the video function, but it is not required. If you have a question or would like to make a comment during designated discussion times, please use the raise hand feature. Both Christy and I will monitor this. Everyone manages their own raise hand feature, so please unclick once no longer needed. When you are speaking, please identify yourself, as we may not recognize your voice. And please remember to use mute when you are finished speaking. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed? Last year, I was appointed to the NANCY as chairwoman, and it's been an honor and privilege to serve in this capacity. Together, we've addressed difficult and timely numbering issues, including illegal robocalling, number exhaust, and caller ID authentication. We've done so despite the challenges of working through an ongoing pandemic. I appreciate each and every one of you. I know how much time and dedication it takes to deliver thoughtful reports and other content to the NANCY. I sincerely thank you. At our last meeting, the council approved the third and final report from the CATA working group concerning the adoption of caller ID authentication technology and other techniques to combat unlawful robocalls and malicious caller ID spoofing in countries outside of the United States. The council also heard reports from the NAOWG on the annual review of the billing and collection agent, as well as the North American Numbering Plan Fund size and contribution factor. Today, we will hear an FCC staff presentation about the ongoing implementation of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We recently hit some important milestones in the scheduled rollout of 988 as the abbreviated dialing code for the Lifeline. The Lifeline is a life-saving service, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. as I'm sure all of you are as well. We will also hear updates from the Secure Telephone Identity Governance Authority, the North American Portability Management LLC, and the Numbering Administration Oversight Working Group. Your contributions are invaluable to the Commission's work. We look forward to hearing from all of these groups, and we appreciate your hard work. I'll turn the meeting back over to Christy, our DFO, who will conduct the roll call. If members have any new ethic disclosures to make to the group, please respond when your name is called to indicate that you are present, and then make the relevant disclosure at that time.
Okay. We'll start with 10X people.
This is Lisa Marie Maxon and present.
Thank you. 800 response information services.
Hi, this is Heather Barrows, 800 Response Information Services.
ACA Connects.
As Brian Hurley participating today on behalf of ACA Connects.
Ad Hoc Telecommunications Users Committee. Do we have anybody from Ad Hoc? Alliance for Telecommunications Industry Solutions.
Good afternoon. This is Jackie Walgermuth with Addis.
Thank you. AT&T.
Good afternoon. This is Olaoye Felicia for HH.
Bandwidth.
Hi, you have Greg Rogers and Lisa Jill Freeman for bandwidth today.
Charter Communications. Charter Communications. Comcast.
Josh Orzay is present for Comcast.
Competitive Carriers Association.
Alexandra Mays for CCA is here.
CTIA. Do we have anybody from CTIA? Electronic Privacy Information Center.
Chris Rochella from Epic.
Google.
Craig Lennon from Google's here.
Encompass.
Good afternoon. It's Chris Shipley from Encompass.
Intelliquent. Do we have anybody from Intelliquent? Lumen.
This is Lindsay with Lumen.
Maine Public Utilities Commission.
Bill Bartlett.
National Association of Attorneys General.
This is Tracy Nayer from the North Carolina Department of Justice on behalf of the National Association of Attorneys General.
National Association of State Utility Consumer Advocates.
Yeah, this is Bob Nelson from NASUCA.
Nevada Public Utilities Commission.
Hi, this is Tammy Cordova.
NTCA.
This is Brian Ford with the NTCA.
Peerless Network.
Hi, this is Julie O's with Peerless Network.
Public Service Commission of the District of Columbia.
Hi, this is Lara Hoadley-Walt from DCPSC.
SIP Forum.
Yeah, this is Rich Shockey from the SIP Forum.
T-Mobile USA.
Hello, this is Rosemary Leist with T-Mobile. I disclose that I attend the Napa Mlc meetings, and I am not an officer of the Napa Mlc.
Okay, thank you. TDS Telecommunications.
Hi, this is Paul Najedlo with TDS Telecommunications.
Telnix.
Hi there, this is Sarah Halko with Telnix, filling in for David Kaysen.
Twilio.
This is Allison Blevins with Twilio.
US Telecom.
This is Josh Berkey with US Telecom.
Verizon.
Dana Crandall here with Verizon.
Vonage. Do we have anybody from Vonage? West Virginia Public Service Commission.
Terry Blake is here for the West Virginia PSC.
iConnective.
Chris Drake here for iConnective.
Kathy
Somos.
McMahon with iConnected.
Somos.
Joel Bernstein for Somos.
Did I miss anyone or did anyone join late?
Hi, this is Susan Gately for Ad Hoc. I joined a few moments late. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Okay, that concludes the roll call. I thank all the members for attending and I turn the meeting back to the chair.
Thanks, Christy. For our first report, we'll hear from Brent Struthers, Director of the Secure Telephone Identified Governance Authority. Brent, the floor is yours. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Charles Peterson. Thank you for inviting the STIGA to do an update today. Hopefully y'all can hear me just fine. If you could go to the first page of the present, or the second page, I guess, of the presentation, it'd be helpful. Glenn's not on. This is still called Glenn's graph. Glenn Klepper asked us to create this one. So this shows the number of service providers that have been authorized since day one. And as you can see, we've got another kind of uptick in authorized providers throughout this year up until and actually a little bit after the FCC's non-facilities-based small provider deadline. So we've got 678 as of the end of July. Actually, as of today, we're at 692. We've currently got 11 authorized STI certificate authorities. Those are the folks that assign these certificates to service providers and rest boards that they are used to sign calls. We've got 2 more being looked at now, so there could be an increase in the number of STICAs as well coming up. Unless anybody has questions on that slide, we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, 3 updates here, really. The first one is on the MOU. The STIGA and the CSTGA, the GA in Canada, created and signed in memorandum of understanding a couple of weeks ago. This was announced via press release. You might have seen that. The CSTGA and the STIGA have agreed to terms that lay out mutual areas of interest, sharing of documents such as draft policies, development of joint deliverables. Our hope is that this MOU will create a model for other countries to follow as they, like Canada and the US, implement STIR/SHAKEN, and then if they seek to coordinate with us on our STIR/SHAKEN implementation. Specifically, a little bit more specifically, some of the areas of mutual interest are development of educational materials for other countries on cross-border collaboration, discussion of cross-border traffic and specific SHAKEN framework interconnection issues, combined list of trusted STICAs and certificate revocation list, sharing of information that's related to enforcement, such as revocation of SBC tokens. There's some common technical issues that may be relevant as we continue to develop on the STIR/SHAKEN implementations in both the US and Canada. And then, of course, there's various GA policies and procedures that we might want to discuss before those policies are developed and published. So now that we have the MOU completed, the GA board and the CSTGA executive committee will look to hold some joint meetings to begin the work of coordination. This is really an exciting step moving forward in the implementation of STIR/SHAKEN, not just nationally, but now internationally. So the GA and I'm pretty sure the CSTGA are both very excited about this MOU. Hopefully that was all heard. I know the presentation went down for a little bit, but I figured we'd come back up. So the next item is the SHAKEN framework funding. Oh, stay with that last slide. I'm sorry. The SHAKEN framework funding. The board's going to begin to consider its budget for 2023 this month. There's not much to announce there, other than I think individual providers will almost assuredly see their individual costs decrease because we've had such an increase in the number of providers participating that everybody's costs will be spread. The total cost for the STIR/SHAKEN framework will be spread among a great many more providers, so everybody's cost should go down. The last item on this page is a new policy that was announced by the STIGA board. It completed what we call the CA certificate. Yeah, having a hard time speaking. A certification authority revocation policy. That's been actually posted to the STIGA website. If you're looking for it, it's part of the policy decisions binder. So look for the policy decisions binder. It's the last policy in there. The policy is not relevant necessary to everybody, but the policy is really a guide for handling potential STICA breaches of either contractual or general GA policy terms. As the stable of authorized CAs continues to grow, like I said, we've got 11, looking at 2 more, so we might end up having 13. It's really important for the board to keep close tabs on all the CAs to ensure that they, like the service providers, are acting in a manner consistent with the security needed in the stir-shaken ecosystem. So this policy helps the board to ensure that the CAs are acting in the appropriate manners as well. That's what I've got for the update today. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to try and address them now.
Thank you, Brent. Are there any questions?
It's like y'all are going to let me off easy again. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Again, thank you, Brent. Next, we'll hear from Teresa Patton, co-chair of the North American Portability Management, LLC. Teresa, the floor is yours.
I think we have Deborah Tucker today.
Right, yeah. Deborah Tucker is here from Verizon.
I apologize, Deborah. I did not realize that.
Yeah, we had a last minute change, so it's no problem. Go ahead, Deborah. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Napa Mlc co-chair, and I would just like to let you all know of the statements of work and contract amendments that we have taken or have managed through the last few months. SOW 29, SOW 30, and Amendment 31 were approved. SOW 29 addresses the implementation of NPIF Change Order 557 for SPID level outbound flow control tunables, which provides flow control tunables at the SPID level to allow for increased configuration flexibility. SOW 30 addresses the implementation of NPIF Change Order 556, new SD download reason, which provides data on the reason a ported telephone number is being disconnected from the NPAC. With this change order, a new NPAC service provider tunable called a SPIDable will be added, and a new download reason will be added. Amendment 31 addresses the addition of email addresses as an ELIP data element and to permit law enforcement agency, or LEAs, access to the wireless do not call service intermodal ports system. We are also notifying you of the NPAC release schedule. Release 5.1.1 is under consideration for first quarter 2023, and we're looking at a date in February. It will include functionality for SOWs 29 and 30, as well as operational improvements and usability enhancements. The next slide, please. Our Napa Mlc Committees, we have a few of them. One of them is the Contract Implementation Committee. We had 6 new finding reports for providers of telecommunications related services to validate the need for NPAC data access. Those were received and approved since the last Napa Mlc report was delivered to the NANCY. The 2022 Annual Certification Qualification, or ACQ, process status as of July 19th was 99% of service providers had completed their ACQ and 98% of the PTRS users had completed their ACQ. Next slide, please. We have a Security Advisory Committee. A quarterly review with the members of the SAC, the FCC, and iConnective will be scheduled. And we recently added the Numbering Trends Advisory Committee. It's a new committee tasked with identifying, researching, and discussing trends and new industry developments that may affect numbers, number management, and number portability. And we've selected topics to kick off this effort, which include bifurcation of numbers between carrier assignment of SMS and voice on 2 different carriers, individual telephone number pooling and the potential impacts to the NPAC, and hyperporting. That's when the same telephone numbers continuously port between carriers rather frequently. And for the last slide, it's our appendix that provides us with the Napa Mlc role, our contact information, and meeting information. And I would like to know if anyone has any questions.
Okay. Seeing no hands raised. I want to say a big thank you to Deborah. Deborah, thank you so much for stepping in there. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear a report from Phil Lindsay, co-chair of the Numbering Administration Oversight Working Group. Phil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Charles Peterson. And my name is Philip Lindsay. I'm with Lumen Technologies. I am one of the co-chairs for the Number Administration Oversight Working Group. I share that role with Mr. Bob McCausland, and I want to extend my appreciation to Bill Anderley and Rebecca Macaroni for the liaison efforts that they provide on an ongoing basis. Just invaluable advice and leadership there. If we could move into the next page, please. So the area of responsibility, we oversee as a working group, oversee the number or the Nampa reassigned numbers database. Let's spell it out. North American Numbering Plan Administrator, the reassigned numbers database administrator, and the billing and collection agent. And then we provide other oversight for number portability administration. Our oversight typically focuses on the contracts associated with the North American Numbering Plan Administrator, the reassigned numbers database administrator, and the billing and collections agent. And then again, some general oversight of the number portability. Move on to the next slide. The contracts essentially there are two contracts, one that encompasses the Nampa, the RNDA, and the other is the BNC agent. And I've got some detail on here as far as the timing. One significant point that I should probably point it out is that the BNC agent contract will expire next April. So where there's work being done to prepare for that. And as was seen in the last meeting, we provided a report on some of that effort there. So move on to the next slide. So this next slide is just essentially a summary of the work efforts that we've done since the last meeting. I'll go into detail in the following slides on that. Move on to the next slide. For the Nampa, we reviewed the Nampa monthly reports, which includes the NAMP, North American Numbering Plan, the Pooling Administration, and the RNA, which is the PANI numbers for 911 services. We completed those monthly evaluations, and the Nampa contract includes the combination of the number administration and pooling administration and routing number administration. The new date for that completion is fourth quarter of 2024. We also completed the development of the performance surveys. This provides user feedback, target service providers, and others, including regulators, and is considered in our annual evaluation. We did not consider that in the last annual evaluation because we were in the process of going through the PRA review, which should be completed before the next evaluation cycle. So with that, the next slide, the Nampa 988 implementation planning. This is the effort that was completed on ultimately the 16th of July. That did two things. It implemented 10-digit dialing across 82 area codes. It also then implemented 988 nationwide. The mandatory 10-digit dialing enforcement deadline was in July of 2022, and the 988 implementation deadline was the following day on July 16th, 2022. I just want to extend my congratulations to the industry for a job well done. I know it was a significant effort, especially for Lumen. I think we were among few, if any, other providers that had implementation requirements across all 82 of those area codes. So it was definitely a significant undertaking for service providers, and extend that gratitude for all providers in accomplishing this and providing such a valuable service to our country. So with that, we can move on to the next. So the RNDA, we have our monthly report, and then there's the required monthly update by the 15th of each month. And I provide a little statistic there of the number of NAMP numbers that are included in the database. And then we completed, of course, the quarterly evaluations, and you can find the access to the website, the R&D websites in this presentation. Billing collections agent, we review monthly the billing collection reports, the monthly review of deliverables, the financials for the Nampa and the R&D, and then we complete our monthly and quarterly evaluation. Just to put it in perspective, the billing and collections agent, essentially, as we experienced in the last meeting, develops and provides the contribution factors for the budget and the budget for the upcoming year, and then also engages in the billing and collections of the costs associated with the NAMP and the R&D. And so service providers should keep an eye out, because those bills are going to be sent out soon. So keep an eye out for those, as those will be coming, I think, in September. If we want to move on to the next slide. So Number Portability Industry Forum. They meet on a monthly basis, and they are focusing on general LMP and industry issues. As you saw in the NAMP report, they were referenced in some of their activity there. Their address industry issues like interfaces, LSMS capacity planning, and then the best practices and change order review. They are currently working on an issue brought in by Somos requesting changes of the interface between the impact and the pooling administration function. That is consistent with it's related to the combining of those NAS and PAS systems into the CNAS system. The planning for the industry-wide load testing to determine capacity of service provider systems to handle the increase in throughput. And then we've got the remaining schedule for 2022. And then if folks are interested in more detail about the MPIF, we reach out and contact any of the tri-chairs, Deb Tucker, Teresa Patton, or Randy Ryan. And so we can move on to the next slide, I think. And so this is essentially a list of the entities that have representation on the NAOWG. Again, I want to extend my appreciation to all those that participate in the NAOWG. It is a significantly technical working group with a lot of expertise amongst all these entities. So it is a tremendous honor to be involved in the efforts that the NAOWG gets involved with. So, and then we can move on, I think, to the final slide, which is our next meeting is August 25th, and then the remaining meetings for 2022. And if anybody has any questions or needs any more details associated with the NAOWG, feel free to reach out to myself or Bob McCausland at the emails listed in the presentation. So So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Not
See,
me. Go
I
ahead.
see a hand,
Okay,
couple
good.
hands. Richard and Chris, I don't know, we take Richard.
Yeah, this is Rich Shockey with the Forum. I'm just curious in terms of what kind of technical challenges involved in the combined numbering platform is delaying implementation until 2025?
We haven't had a ton of oversight on that effort. I don't know if Somos is on and may be able to comment more specifically on that.
Yeah, let me check in with Florence. She's not on right now, but I'll check in and see if I can get back to you on that. This is Joel.
Yeah, this is Rich Shockey again. It's just wondering what particular technical challenges Sonos is being presented that would keep this out into outlying years.
Okay, Somos can follow up.
I'll follow up with Richard.
Yeah. So I think Chris Drake has his hand up too.
Yes, thank you. This is Chris Drake from iConnective. I have a few things to say about that update. I think Richard's question is interesting, but it's not the first delay on that particular program. More than $80 million. I want to start with that. We should all be aware of the magnitude of that contract award. One would expect this to be treated as serious business. I've had quite a few discussions with industry players about the way this modernization initiative has unfolded since the award in December of 2020. We're universally astounded at the lack of transparency, and Richard's question is quite appropriate, and the apparent laissez-faire posture in the face of a very clear failure to deliver. Somos is not meeting their contract, but there doesn't seem to be any oversight. Fixed quote prices prove not to be fixed at all. Timelines are entirely discretionary. When industry people voice concern, and they have, they're dismissed with a pat on the head and sent on their way. There are many new players at Nancy, so I think it's pertinent to clarify that iConnective bid to consolidate the Nampa and the PA was more than 50% under the awarded price and included a timeline that would have delivered the combined system, including transition, 3 months of transition, within 9 months of the award, let alone close to 4 years that we're looking at current course and speed. The great irony is that our proposal was rejected because, quote, the commission does not think you can deliver for this cost, and we don't believe you can deliver in this time frame, these being judged a deficiency. I'm confused how our proposal was too risky to select, yet 3 years of ongoing delays are of no concern at all. Somehow Somos gets to navigate this environment by entirely different rules, and the commission continues to miss an opportunity to reduce by tens of millions of dollars the annual assessment on the industry and consumers of telecommunication services. People in the industry know that I care a lot that things are always done right. And these are largely my personal remarks, which may not reflect those of iConnective. From a company perspective, I can say that iConnective remains ready and willing to serve in order to recover this program, should that be helpful. The iConnective proposal delivered significant industry cost savings above the awarded approach, and even now, we could deliver much sooner than the revised commitment from Somos. Whether this commitment is any more reliable than any of the previous ones. Thank you, Chairperson Charles Peterson.
Thank you for your comments. They're well received by myself and the vice chair and others of the Nancy. So thank you for your comments.
Chairwoman, we have one more hand up from Joel Bernstein.
Joel, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that we will take this back and it's going to be addressed at the next NAOWG meeting. So thank you very much for your comments.
We have Phil Lindsay would like to comment.
Yeah, so this is Phil Lindsay, and on behalf of the NAOWG, since there was a revision of the time frame for implementation, we are increasing our activity around overseeing and engaging the details around the implementation. So we hopefully will have a little more insight into the process than we had before. So thank you.
Okay, I think that was the last hand. So go ahead, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Christy. And thank you, Philip, for your presentation this afternoon. Clearly, there are some questions and concerns that we need to look at, and I'm more than willing to assist with that. So going forward for our final item today, we will hear from Michelle Sclater, Senior Counsel for the Number Administration and 988 Team Lead at the FCC. Michelle, if you're with us, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Nice to hear some familiar voices. I really appreciate the Nancy and all the work that you all have done to help have 988 be a success. I echo all of the words that Phil Lindsay said, and I think the Nancy has been huge in making this happen. And we're so excited that 988 has launched and it is rolling, and it is helping so many Americans more than we actually really anticipated. The call volumes has gone up, texting's gone up, and I think it's really been a huge benefit to the American people, and the Nancy has had a huge role in that. So with that, I just wanted to give this overview today of kind of where we are, and just go forward and just, like I said, we're just really happy that it rolled out the way it did, and that it was such a success, and it's going to continue to get better over time. So as I said, it rolled out nationwide as of July 16th of this year, and this presentation will cover some of these the things listed here. A lot of this stuff is probably things that you have heard in the past if you've been in the Nancy for a while, so I apologize if some of this is duplicative, but I just wanted to give a general overview, like I said, of where we are. So next slide. Okay, so procedurally, in 2018, Congress passed the National Suicide Hotline Improvement Act. And then in 2019, the Commission did an NPRM proposing to designate 988. So kind of in the middle of all that, the Nancy was hugely helpful in figuring out what the number would be. We looked at many different things, all of the N11s, and then any of the other numbers that we thought would be helpful. And I think we came out with a great number. I think 988 is distinct and unique, and I think it serves the purpose well. And then in 2020, the Congress enacted the National Suicide Hotline Designation Act. And in July 16th of that year, we adopted a report and order and officially adopted 988 as a 3-digit code, and required the providers to implement within 2 years, which we all did. Yay. Thank you, everyone. And then in 2021, we adopted a second report and order that required texting to support 988 with the same timeline. Okay, next slide. So timeline and implementation. Yes, so we require that all telecom providers, iVoIPs, one-way VoIP providers to make these necessary changes. And as Phil Lindsay talked about, we required many providers to implement 10-digit dialing in areas that use 7-digit dialing, and 988 is the first 3 digits of the number. And as we said, that was 82 area codes, and it was a lot of work, and we appreciate all the work that went into that. It was a huge endeavor, and hopefully something never has to be repeated like that again. But it was needed to make it work, and it was done. So thank you all again. Nampa was a huge part in that as well, and we really appreciate it. Next. And text to 988. So text to 988 wasn't in the initial order, but as you said, in the second report and order, we required that text to 988 be on the same timeline. I was surprised by this, but very happy that the wireless providers were able to do it in a short turnaround, and it went off without a hitch as far as everyone is now able to text. And I think as I said before, that text messaging has become a way of life for many people, especially for, teenagers, young adults. And I think the texting has been the biggest winner in all of this. Calls have gone up, but texting has gone through the roof. Obviously, we didn't have texting before. They did run a pilot program, and they were monitoring the texts that were coming into the 800 number and responding to them. But texting has shot up quite high, and I don't have all the official numbers, and I'll share them as we get them. But call volumes have gone up, text has gone way up, and chats have kind of stayed the same or gone down a little bit, probably because people who normally chat, maybe they started to text. So they're analyzing all this data on a 4-hour basis. So it's really interesting to see how it's going to unfold. But suffice it to say that it is a big winner, the texting to 988, and it's going to help a lot of Americans, especially the younger folks. So, and anyone, I think we all text now. So, all right, thank you. Next. So we had this geolocation report that Congress mandated that the commission submit this report on the feasibility of attaching automatic dispatchable location with 988. We did a public notice, and we were able to issue a report to Congress in 2021. And basically, we recommended that we would like to convene stakeholders to discuss the issues and collaborate on solutions. And so as part of that, next slide, we did a Geolocation Forum. And so in May of this year, May 24th, we had a forum, and we had all industry, standard setting bodies, federal partners, and many others to discuss 988 geolocation. It was a full day. Really, really packed with a lot of people. We had a lot of presenters and panelists, and we discussed all of these topics listed below: location information, the evolution of 911 and impacts for 988, the suicide crisis lifeline, and geolocation needs. What I wanted to also point out here is, I didn't mention it earlier, but the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline has rebranded. So I want everyone to really take note of that. It's now called the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So I think they're encompassing more than just suicide prevention, and really taking on more of the other crises that people are experiencing. So just wanted to make note of that. As you refer to it in any of your materials, please take a look. And if anyone needs help with any materials to share within their companies or anywhere, there's I didn't provide this link, but I can. It's a SAMHSA toolkit, and so they have it on their website, and it has all sorts of printable materials. And I've even printed some out and given them to the schools. It's just a lot of information there for anybody who needs anything with the new branding on it. So. Also part of the Geolocation Forum, we talked about frontline challenges, consumer considerations, the interaction between 911 and 988. Lifeline technology, their data usage, and what they're doing now and in the future. And then the last part of it was identifying technical challenges and solutions. And so all great information, and the link at the end we have a link to the all of the information, all the slide decks, everything that we talked about on that day. So we're currently analyzing all of this information. Next slide. Current state of legislation and 988 fees. So as of July 15th of this year, 35 states have introduced or passed legislation. And so the legislation, these bills are concerning routing to the Lifeline, regulating state crisis centers, directing certain state offices to oversee the state administration of suicide and mental health activities, state coordination with the National Lifeline, establishing separate funds or policy statements. So I think each state has kind of taken it in a little different direction. So they have quite a bit of flexibility to introduce fees to help with infrastructure or anything that is related to 988. Many different approaches. And as of July 15th, 4 states listed below, Washington, Nevada, Colorado, and Virginia, have passed bills to enact a fee. One thing I want to mention about this is that working with 911 and our public safety group, they also track these fees. And we want to just make sure that people understand that 911 and 988 are different much different services and they have different funding streams. So it's just important for people to realize that they shouldn't be using 911 fees for 988 and vice versa. So that's something that we like to help our public safety group hammer on. So thank you. Next slide. So I included this slide. This is a slide that we got from our public safety group. And I just think it's very interesting and helpful to look at side by side 911 and 988. As I said, they're different services. And as you can see, 911 has been around for a long time and has worked through all of these issues. And 988, you'll see at the bottom, has a lot of TBDs. And so we're still working through all of it. And you know, we'll get there eventually, but we just wanted to, you know, provide this slide so that you can see the differences. And the other thing, just from a practical standpoint that Sam so likes us to mention is that, you know, if there's an active suicide attempt or a risk of imminent harm, they want people to call 911 because right now that's the best way to get emergency dispatch there. So, you know, even though some people are saying 988 is like 911 for mental health, but if there's an active suicide attempt or anything that is imminent, then 911 should be the first place people call. So I just wanted to point that out. Next slide. So as I said before, we're analyzing all the information that we gathered in the Geolocation Forum and considering next steps. And we're, you know, meeting and talking with folks to really hammer down into some of these issues. So 988 is not going away. We'll be talking to all of you at some point about all of these things. And we wanted to, you know, thank you for your collaboration going forward because we will need all of your help. And as far as the 988 fee report, as I mentioned, we have to collect that information every year, just like the 911 fee report. And so we will be putting together all of the information that we receive and submitting it to Congress by October 17th of this year, and then annually thereafter. So it will be the same as, you know, not the same exact report, but obviously specific to 988, we will do this fee report every year. So that it will be ongoing. Next. And so here's where I reference the lot of the links of things that I've talked about in my information. So if any of you need to reach out about 988, please feel free to reach out to me and we can help figure out whatever we need to figure out. Okay, I just want to thank you again. We really do appreciate all of the work that went into this. We know it was a huge endeavor and the Nancy is always there to help us. And we really do appreciate it because where else could we get all these numbering folks into one room? Okay, so with that, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we have, Michelle, we have a couple of hands up.
Okay.
Let's start with Rich Shockey.
Right, this is Rich Shockey with the SIP Forum. I'm glad first of all, thank you for your report. It was excellent, very comprehensive. And all of my colleagues here on the Nancy that worked so hard on this, you know, deserve a virtual pat on the back for getting this all done. But you did actually mention something that I'm generally concerned about, which is this idea of diversion of the fees. We've seen that certainly in 911. It's terrible. I know the commissioners have spoken out eloquently about this. In the legislation that you're seeing across the state, are there specific provisions that are prohibiting, again, this diversion of 988 funds or mixing of 988 with 911? I'm just, what are you seeing out there? And is there something WCB or PSHS can do to stop this before it even begins? That's point one, and I've got another one.
Okay. Yes. So I have not reviewed all the legislation, but we have been involved with a couple states at least who have contacted us, or we have seen some concerning proposed legislation. So we've reached out to their offices to make sure that they understand that there is no commingling of fees, and that if they do have a fee that says, or a line item that says 911, 988, that they know that it has to be completely separate, you know, how they manage those funds. So we have been pretty vocal, and I know that public safety, whenever they talk about anything related to 911 lately, it seems like they bring it up as well to make sure that all the groups understand that should be no commingling of funds. And so when we see anything, we do proactively contact them to make sure. And like I said, I haven't seen the legislation specifically on all of them recently, but we have been involved in making sure that people understand that.
And that you don't build golf courses with these funds either.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah. And again, it was very, very complex trying to get some of the single NPA states to convert to national 10-digit dialing. And I'm just going to say that I wish we would have completely gone to national 10-digit dialing. That would solve infinite number of problems in the administration of the NAMP. It would increase the size of the NAMP by 20%. So that's going to be my little rant for the day, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yes, I hear you on that one. I do.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Rich, it sounds like that covers all the points you want to make. So we'll move on to the next one, which is Bob Nelson for Nasuka.
Yeah, thank you. I just wondered if based on that last question, or question for Rich.
Okay.
Are local governments that are going to be in charge of funding the 988 going to have the same problems they did with 911 and running out of funds and not being able to get the state to help out?
Well, so the good news is that SAMHSA's budget, because of 988 and because of the pandemic, has I don't have the specific number, but it is a lot. I mean, their budget has gone way up, and I think that they recognize that suicide prevention and mental health is a problem here in the United States, and so they have been hammering on the state governments to make sure that they get their funding and their crisis centers, because it really is a local and state service that is managed by HHS and SAMHSA, and they have been hammering that message home too. But the good news is that SAMHSA itself has received a lot of funding, and they have been giving grants to the states and localities to make to upgrade everything, to hire people, to increase their capacity. And so the good news is that, I mean, they're getting the word out there to the states that this is important, that they need to do this. But there is federal money that is flowing into the states to do this, and it is quite a bit. We were, our role was to get the number up and working, and with your all's help, we did that. But we were concerned about capacity as well. But thankfully, with all these extra funds, SAMHSA was able to quickly implement and to bring the capacity up to par. And what they did in the interim, until the states are up and running, they set up a lot of backup centers. And so they've been taking a lot of extra calls on the federal level. If a state can't answer the phone, or a state or local crisis center can't answer it, it rolls to a backup center. And SAMHSA really did pump that up quite a bit, and in anticipation of the launch, so that they knew that someone would answer the phone. So as the states and local groups get up to par, then they'll probably be able to back down on some of those backup centers. So they're working it. They know the issues, but I know that their secretary Becerra from HHS, the day of the launch, they had a press conference, and he was hammering it home, telling the states that they need to really make this their priority. So I think with everybody working on it, I think it'll go well. But I think that SAMHSA realizes where there's not quite enough support in it, and has really supplemented with the backup centers. So time will tell. But it's their program. But we were just really excited that when the launch happened, that there weren't calls that went unanswered, or people weren't on the hold for a long time. I mean, it really has gone well. And also wanted to say that in September will be National Suicide Prevention Month. So you'll see a lot more about this, and you'll see probably bigger national events, and also some, information about how it's been going, 2 months post-launch. So, but yeah, stay tuned on that. But yeah, I think SAMHSA recognizes it, and they're filling the gaps. So
Bob, anything else?
No, that's very good. I appreciate that answer.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any other raised hands. So we will, we'll hand it back to the chairwoman.
Thank you. Michelle, thank you for your thoughtful and timely presentation. And I do want to thank everyone on the call who had questions. And I hope that you received and heard the answers you were looking for this afternoon. Okay, we will now move on to the public participation portion of the meeting. As I noted earlier, we enable public participation through comments filed in the docket and through a dedicated email address, which was livequestions@fcc.gov. First, we'll turn to the comments filed in the docket. A public notice for this meeting released on April 29th, 2022, asked members of the public to file any comments in the Commission's electronic comment filing system in docket number CC 92-237. Do we have any comments from members of the public, Christy?
We do not.
Okay. Are there any public comments or questions received through the livequestions.gov email address, Christy?
There are not.
Okay. Finally, do any Nancy members have other business they would wish to address this afternoon? I don't see any hands raised. Do you, Christy?
No, I don't.
Okay. The next Nancy meeting will be held at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on October 4th, 2022, and it will be an all virtual format again. Please mark your calendars. As we get closer to the date, the agenda, presentation slides, and login information will be distributed. Christy, anything from the commission you'd like to add?
No, nothing else from us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Vice Chair Bridget Alexander White, anything you'd like to conclude with this afternoon?
Yes, really quickly, I'd just like to say thank you, Jordan. It's been a pleasure working with you the past few years, and I wish you well in your new position. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. If there's nothing else, I want to thank you all for your time this afternoon. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.